stood out for you?
Anyway, my name is Reverend Oliver Mandesota, coming from Men of Valor, Purpose and Vision. Because of the mentions that are the MVPP component, I stand for the boy child. When we're dealing with the Stillfontein case, the space that I was coming from was to look at the young men involved in all these issues. And I've heard and I've been following conversation. Yesterday, what the climax when we were in the gender feminist, I could see it's not having an effect. Right. Well, like I'm saying now, we could see that what we seem to be having a problem is the definition of talents. We struggled for a long time to understand what is just in transition. And then we looked again at what is the problem is when we look at the most affected, which is gender, which is women. And I was looking at this, are we the people, when we're looking at the people's court, I like how the presentations were made, the collegial order from Malawi and from South Africa, but if you have the government lawyer, how he presented his face, then the question was, even all these questions we are trying to ask, are we that organized, we the people who speak to the power? Then we reach that stage yet, because it seems like ourselves, we have issues, we are dealing with the past to bring into the present, and we don't seem to be relevant in the current debate. The government is way, way ahead. The corporates are way, way ahead. These are strategic people. They've got resources. So to me, I took it as a challenge that in all the conversations, I think, and I want to believe you'd agree with me that we have neglected the key component, which is the boy child. All the other things that we are discussing, they are linked to the non-mentioning or even focusing on what are the effects these things have on our male section of the society. And this is the question I think I would like to challenge all of civil society organizations, the church involved, that we need to understand the position. Where are we positioning the young men in all these things? Hence, our managers and in ICU, they're not working. A lot of people are coming from bleeding relationships. Why? We neglected in calling the boy child. So that is a question I think should be considered in our next conversation. What are we saying? Instead of looking at our past anger, hate, bitterness, and all those things. And are we ready to face the government? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Do we have a lady? Okay, so take that hand and then I'll take that one. We don't have any hand that side yet. I'm hoping it's going to be fairly soon.
Thank you so much. My name is Talento. Coming from the Zambia. My takeaway is that we've had conversations on the alternative, on the artisanal small scale miners, the existing policies both in SADC, the Africa Mining Vision, the ECOWAS, all the policies. But for me, my takeaway is that the key question that must be answered only by the, it's not working. Anyway, my key question that I have is that what must be done? And this question can only be answered by the artisanal small scale miners themselves, because we can have all these conversations, the policies present around the laws, but artisanal small scale mining that is affecting the poor man, poor woman who has no voice, and the key of alternative livelihoods can only be answered by the same people on the ground. You can't take away food from the table and expect more. So I think the question of what must be done must be taken to the ground on what really is going to happen if you take away these artisanal small scale miners. Tell them not to mine. They won't believe you. They won't believe they'll follow you if it means they'll sleep in your house, sleep in your house. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We have that one again.
Morning. Morning, comrades. I'm Abasa Leonard from Zimbabwe, coming from a lithium mining community. My reflection is on energy transition for who? The transition, from my own perspective, taking gender lenses, I can see that it's a transition of women from poverty to abject poverty. Because women have been displaced from their ancestral land where they were farming around 3 hectares, and now they are now settled on 350 square meters in an urban center. And they produce food for the family, and they produce relish for the family. So there is energy crisis. They cannot even afford to pay prepaid electricity for their family, for laundry, for lighting. So even their children, they will be affected their studies. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I am not going to take any more time, unfortunately. We will still have some more time to reflect, unless we have a female that wants to speak, since we paid from the men in the room. Anybody? No one? Okay. Thank you very much. A mic there, please. Under a minute, thanks. Thanks for redeeming us. Yesterday, Jolene was really proud. We had so many women taking space on the panel. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. Good morning to everyone. My takeaway is I want to encourage everyone here that we have been given the task to go to the community, to amplify the community members' voices, to empower them, to make sure that they can speak for themselves, because we cannot continue to speak for themselves while they are there, they can stand for themselves and speak to empower them. So I also want to also the issue of food, to advocate for the issue of reparation, to make sure that those multinational companies in our government, they also recognize the harm that they are causing to the communities, to our countries, so that they can repay, so that they can compensate our communities for this just transition, energy transition.
Thank you so much. One thing that keeps ringing in my mind is the fact that the poor are not sleeping because they're hungry, and the rich are not sleeping because the poor are working. We're in this place, we are given instructions in terms of which alley you can't use, where you can't pass. We're afraid of going in those areas, and I'm wondering, and I'm thinking to myself, which side of the table do I fall over? Why am I afraid to walk through this alley? Am I one of those that are not sleeping? We need to question ourselves. Francis, your time is up. You have 3 minutes with your celebrity team.
Good morning. Good morning. Amanda. I was hoping that with celebrities we would have some drum rolls, and I'm waiting for the technical team to work with me. One thing that you will always know is that I only make the promises I can keep. So I promised to make some people famous this morning, and I'm waiting. It's almost coming. If you know that you sent a tweet, you sent a post on Facebook, or you just assumed that we would not take it seriously when we offered to make people famous, now here we are. This is the reality check. If we can have one by one, but it's fine. Let's keep it that way. I see Global Financial Integrity, are they in the room? GFI, not in the room. We also have Dr. Mithika. Is he in the room? Dr. Mithika. These celebs, where are they? We also have Zimbabwe Council of Churches. Are they in the room? They deserve a better clap as they become famous. We hereby confer on you the order of one of the most famous Army 2025 social media users. Those who are of a similar opinion say aye. Good. Apart from ZCC, we have another organization here called Tax Justice Network Africa. Are they in the room? They are also famous. And then when I look, there's also another gentleman there. We cannot see his face, but we can see his head. And by the shape of the back of his head, we might be able to know who it might be. So TJ and then we also have Action Aid Zambia. Are they in the room? Action Aid Zambia. Are they in the room? Please celebrate the other. My co-moderator, Lawyers for Human Rights. Are they in the room? I don't know if we allow them on that. Lawyers for Human Rights. We can see them on that side. We hereby confer on you the same. We welcome you to the order of famous army users. We move on. Publish what you pay. Are they in the room? Don't you be louder? Yes. We also have Femnet. Femnet? Femnet, not in the room. Okay. We also have another one. This one, I was hoping that it would be put without the others to just show you what the other side is saying. And you see the one on the extreme right. They are saying, own a piece of Africa. Discover the finest Tanzania. This is not this side. It is that other side where we are going. Because we are talking about community, land, environmental degradation. On the other side, they are saying, own a piece of Africa, mortgaging us away. Before you get too angry, let's move on to the next one, because you might start stoning me. We have Padzai. Padzai means it. Padzai. Padzai. Not this one, not that one. We also have another gentleman called Apollinaire. Is he in the room? They need to see you, sir. Norwegian Church Aid Malawi, NCA. I thought you'd be louder. We also have Haki Rasilimali. Good. Move on to the next ones. Coming? Or these are the last ones? No, I'm sure there are others who are here. So we still encourage you. Please, today, any photos you take, and I say if you take them with your favorite human, use the banner on the ground floor, put it on Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn, you continue being famous. I'm trying to see the next ones are coming. Are they coming? Because we have some individuals we wanted to recognize. If they are not coming, it's fine. We'll get another session to do that. We hand back to my co-moderator to call the people who will be doing the next session. Over to you.
Thank you, Francis. A round of applause for our social media celebrities. Thank you so much. Please continue to engage about the AMI on social media. Also visit the AMI website. I think when you scan the program, you should be able to find the website there, but also there are several emails that were sent to you. It would be nice to visit the website and make sure that it's active. I'll call upon the representative from the DRC who is supposed to give us a solidarity message. That one will be promptly followed by Tanzania, Jimmy Luhende, if you're here. And then we'll have Lesotho, Masechaba Torela. So please, very promptly, one after another, we'll limit that to 5 minutes maximum.
for DRC.
DRC.
Yeah, short mind.
Merci beaucoup pour la parole.
Thank you for the floor.
Et je remercie tout le monde pour l'attention que vous prêtez pour la République démocratique du Congo.
I want to thank everybody for the attention given to the DRC.
Alors, notre intervention a deux parties. Non seulement vous annoncer que la mise en RDC s'organise depuis 2017, nous sommes maintenant à notre 8e édition. Et c'est une opportunité pour tout le monde, la société civile, les communautés locales. C'est vraiment une activité qui prend son corps pour rebooster l'activité d'observation et de gestion des ressources naturelles en RDC.
I'd like to say that in DRC, AMI has been organized since 7 years now. We are organizing ourselves in order to boost our activities in the DRC.
La transition énergétique pour qui le thème de cette activité lors de notre rassemblement. Pour nous, en République démocratique du Congo, nous pouvons dire que c'est la transition énergétique du sang. La transition énergétique de pillage des ressources. Les peuples souffrent à cause du coltan, du lithium, du cobalt et d'autres minéraux.
For us in the DRC, we can say, answering this question, transition for whom? We won't say it is transition for black, because in the DRC, people are suffering, people are dying because of this transition mineral for tan, lithium, cobalt, tin, and so on.
Et la guerre que la RDC est en train de subir actuellement, c'est une guerre des ressources naturelles. Nous sommes en train de souffrir parce que nous avons les ressources naturelles. Les riches pillent les pauvres. Et pillent les pauvres à travers d'autres pauvres qui sont des marionnettes.
The war that we are experiencing in DRC is a war for minerals. The wealthy people are killing the poor people because of the minerals. And they are killing the poor people using other poor people who are being used as puppets.
C'est ce qui se passe maintenant. Quand vous apprenez, c'est le Rwanda qui est maintenant en RDC pour appuyer M23. Et en réalité, derrière le Rwanda n'est qu'un arbre qui cache toute une forêt qui signifie les puissances, les grandes puissances occidentales. Et malheureusement, c'est un Africain qui sert de pont pour tuer son frère afin de ravir les richesses de son frère et donner aux plus puissants encore.
So the war that we're experiencing in the DRC, which is being supported by Rwanda, in reality, Rwanda is just one tree that is hiding the forest behind, because behind Rwanda, there are all these multinationals and all these superpowers in the West, and they are using an African to kill his poor brother African, all that to the benefits of these wealthy nations.
Et notre message de ce jour, c'est un appel à la solidarité africaine.
And our call today, we are calling for African solidarity.
Et nous saisissons l'occasion pour remercier tous les pays africains qui nous viennent en aide. Et il s'agit bien vraiment de remercier particulièrement la République sud-africaine qui vient de perdre ses militaires parmi les Congolais tués dans le front, le Malawi et d'autres pays voisins, le Burundi et les autres, qui vraiment n'acceptent pas que la guerre soit une occasion de nous diviser en Afrique. Et si jamais nous en Afrique on cède à la balkanisation de la RDC, après la RDC viendront les autres pays.
And we would like to take this opportunity to thank all the countries that are supporting the DRC in this war, essentially South Africa, a country that has lost some of the sons in the war in DRC who fought alongside the military of the DRC, Malawi, Burundi, and many other countries. And we have to stand together to prevent the balkanization of the DRC, because if it happens and if it is successful in DRC, the next day it is going to carry on to other countries as well.
Et vous comprenez par là que nous ne pouvons pas trop compter sur les grandes puissances
pour mettre fin à cette guerre, parce qu'ils sont déjà chez nous il y a 30 ans, MONUSCO est là, les Nations Unies sont là, et la guerre continue. Ce qui veut dire que nous devons nous prendre en charge. Et nous comptons sur tous les hommes de bonne volonté, nos frères africains des pays voisins, et toutes les forces vives que vous constituez pour qu'on arrive à établir, pour le moment, les minéraux de transition pour la paix, et non les minéraux de transition du sang.
And we cannot count on the United Nations or any of these superpowers because they have been in the DRC for almost 30 years now. We have the United Nations Force of Peacekeeping in the DRC. We have other countries that are in the DRC pretending to try and keep peace, but we have never known peace. And we are counting on you to stand together and to build a new narrative that will speak not about transition minerals, but we have to be speaking about minerals for peace in the DRC. And we count on you to make this voice heard.
Et cette guerre pour la paix, les minéraux de la paix, c'est une guerre non violente. Ce n'est pas une guerre avec les armes. Et quand nous parlons de minéraux pour la paix, nous devons former notre communauté à se prendre en charge. Pour que la communauté arrive à installer ce que nous pouvons appeler la politique de la gouvernance locale participative, la redevabilité, la transparence des gestions et surtout la traçabilité de nos minéraux partout ça passe vers les consommateurs finaux.
We have to build a structure that will enable us to exploit our minerals in a responsible manner in a way that we keep peace in the region. And we need to focus essentially on the good governance and participation of local communities in the policies of regulating our minerals, things such as loyalty, transparency, management, and especially traceability of minerals. We need to be able to know where the minerals are being extracted and what are the conditions where it's coming from.
Et c'est cet appel-là que nous avons besoin de votre soutien. Un soutien stratégique, un soutien matériel, un soutien financier, un soutien technique, et ensemble, nous serons plus forts et nous pouvons bâtir l'Afrique. Nous n'allons pas baisser les bras, le pouvoir est de notre côté. Même si on est puissant sur terre. Il y a aussi une puissance qui dépasse cette puissance-là. Et je crois qu'avec la communauté bien formée et avec ce cadre où nous pouvons faire entendre nos voix et transmettre aux autres, nous pouvons bâtir un beau Congo et bâtir l'Afrique.
That is how we are calling to your support, the support that is to be strategic, material, financial, technology, and together we can establish a very solid foundation on which we will be able to build a sustainable and peaceful future for our country.
Pour clôturer, je vous demande quelques secondes de silence pour les morts enterrés hier à Goma, où l'effectif s'élève officiellement à 3000 décès et que leurs âmes reposent en paix. Merci beaucoup.
So close the line to observe a minute of silence for all the people that were buried in Goma. The official number is 3,000. May the soul rest in peace. Thank you.
Amen. Merci de votre attention.
Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much. Is the person from Tanzania who's supposed to give the solidarity remarks in the room? Sure. Please come through. And then Lesotho, you follow right after.
Good morning. Morning. What is your everyday business? Advocacy, activism, movement. We said this on the first day, yeah? Our everyday business is movement, advocacy, and activism. I think you agree with me that we have gathered here because we know the negative social effects of the mining, of the party. We were told there was a party one day, and that party we are concerned with is the party that John the Baptist's head was inserted, and there was nobody to ask a question. The party moved on. So this party of energy transition, are we going to be silent as our head being chopped, as we don't know the benefit of the party itself? I think we have reflected on the death of John the Baptist, and we have also reflected about the poverty and the sleeping of the hungry. And I'm sure we're not going to sleep again. We have come here to energize ourselves, since we are told that the hungry will not sleep, because the rich and they're also not going to sleep. So that the noise and the gatherings of this nature must continue, because we don't want to go back there and sleep. But we have also reflected about the compromised society, that some of us have compromised. And that's something that also we have to take in mind and see how we are going to navigate this journey with being sure that some of us will keep on compromising situations. As we discussed the concept of energy transition, of which we know very much about right now, we are also reflecting about the powers of the community. And the question, every time we're asking ourselves, who are the communities? And we got into a trap, I think that yesterday or the day before yesterday, we're asking, where are the communities here? It is like now the NGOs, we say we are not communities. We think there's a community somewhere. That's a trap. Those who have compromised, they ask me a question. Who are you representing? Where are they? It's as if we are not part of the community. It's as if we are not affected. We are stuck now looking for the affected community. That's a trap, my friends. We are part of the community. It's us. When you ask the community, CSOs, the local government officers, the member of parliaments, everybody is part of the community. There's no other community down there. So I think we have reflected about the powers of the community and who is the community, which is very good, very key. We should keep on discussing about it. And we have also reflected on the movement, that we need the movements to continue. We have energized ourselves about what the nature of movement do we need, who is doing where, who is doing what. So the learning that we have got here, the knowledge and skills, we have to take them back to our countries to move on with the movement. So as we ask ourselves about who is benefiting, this is $1 million question. We'll keep on asking ourselves who is benefiting. And this question should lead our reflections every time. I think it's important. And we're not going to say the community will get its own power from too much singing, from too much praying. It's just knowledge. We have to give them knowledge. Not knowledge about the frameworks of policies and all these strategies and legal aspects and the frameworks. It's the knowledge about powers, about how they can navigate this war, how they can navigate in the party. What question must they ask before their heads are being chopped off? Yeah? So this is something that I think will energize our communities, and we'll be able to support each other. We'll be able to support those from Congo, we'll support those from Mozambique, we'll be able to support each other, East African, South Africans, everybody. we have to keep on empowering ourselves, empowering the community. And I thank you very much.
Dumelang. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Chaba Torrella from the Christian Council of Lesotho. I'm going to deliver the solidarity message in a churchy tone. Allow me to observe all the protocols. When I look at this theme for this army, energy transition for whom, the critical time or the critical question of our time, I was reminded by the First Chronicles chapter 12, verse 32. It is said in that scripture that the children of Isaac understood the times and knew what to do. Then the question came to my mind, are we leaders gathered here today understand the times? And do we really know what we are supposed to do? I take this moment of 3 to 4 days as an introspective moment. In the Catholic Church, we say, it is my fault, it is my fault, it is my fault that Africa is here in this stage today. Why? Because we haven't been doing enough. Why? Because we've been reluctant to tell truth to power. Why? Because we've been dying the enemies of our society in the name of negotiations. So, ladies and gentlemen, do we even understand? I remember Kanyisile Shabalala, who loves Africa, used to say, whose agenda is this? And I'm of the same sentiment. Whose agenda of this energy transition is it? Who benefits from it? Do Africans understand it? And what are we going to do about it? Where are we transitioning from and where to? And where should we transition? Do we as communities understand this energy transition? Do we really understand? One of the speakers yesterday also talked about the education. Do we, at the community level, understand? Have we educated our community about this energy transition? It is said that in the first book or the second book of Kings, chapter 2, verse 19 to 22, it says that the people of the city of Jericho, when they see Elisha, they ran to him and said, as you see, our village is well located, but the water is bad. And then Elisha said to them, bring the new bowl and give me salt. And we went to the spring and doctored the water. Are we still capable of doctoring the challenges that Africa is facing? Can our people in the community run to ask for solutions? Are we still relevant, comrades? Are we still able to doctor the challenges that Africa is faced with today? We all know that our continent is located and well located, so it has lucrative natural resources,
like water, minerals, diamond, gold, uranium, energy, name them all, that make other continents envy us. But the question is, what is the point of having the splendid location with beautiful resources if the Africans cannot access them? What is the point of having the natural resources if they are of no use to Africans? The beautiful natural resources that we have in Africa benefit the politicians, benefit their families and friends, benefit even the colonial masters in the name of donors and monies. And we've fallen for that. In Sosotho, we say, "Mpempe ya labisa moto kholwa ke santu ya hae." Where are the Elishas of our time? Are we the ones? My fellow Tanzanians said that when we have been capacitated, we've been given skills. Are we ready to go and doctor our waters when we get back to our different countries? Or we'll keep enjoying the lamentations of our society and keep enjoying Africans being beggars and visitors in their country, while we dine with their enemies. Comrades, our silence is too much, too loud. Our reluctance is too much. If we know the power that we have as a civil society organizations, we wouldn't be silent. If the church knows the power it has, it wouldn't be silent. So allow me to say that when you get back home, remember to put the interest of the society first and foremost. So I say to all of you, there's one African proverb that I like. It says that a cat that dreams to become big or becoming like a lion must lose its appetite for rats. I thank you.
Thank you so much for those powerful words. At this point in time, I would like to call upon Mr. Zito Kovane from Mozambique Coalition. You have exactly 15 minutes to give your keynote closing address.
A luta continua. A luta continua. Meu nome é Zito Kovane. Sou de Moçambique. I'm from Mozambique. Da Coligação Cívica sobre a Indústria Extrativa em Moçambique. Antes de tudo, queria expressar agradecimento aos organizadores desse evento.
Before anything else, I'd love to extend my gratitude to the organizers of this event,
que proporcionaram diálogo aberto e inclusivo.
Whom have granted us a very inclusive and open debate or discussions.
Para refletirmos de forma contextualizada a transição energética.
In order for us to discuss in a contextualized manner the energy transition.
Ao encerrarmos esta conferência, os transformadores somos chamados a refletir sobre as vozes que aqui se ergueram, tanto do Congo, de Moçambique, Tanzânia e outras regiões.
So as we are closing this forum of the Process Army 2025, we were called in order to reflect upon all the calls that were made by various stakeholders to mention that the situation in DRC the situation in Mozambique, Tanzania, and many other parts of Africa.
Durante estes dias, debatemos uma questão crucial. Transição energética para quê?
During these past 3-4 days, we have discussed a very crucial aspect: energy transition for who?
Se a resposta não for para todos, estaremos apenas repetindo velhas injustiças sob novas bandeiras. Não podemos permitir que essa transição sirva apenas para enriquecer grandes corporações e fortalecer governos que exploram seus povos.
So to mention that if the answer to that question is not for everyone, then we're going to continue perpetuating injustice that is ongoing, and we're going to have new flags or new stakeholders and new corporations in place, and also fortifying governments that exploit their own people.
As histórias que ouvimos, tanto de Moçambique, Tanzânia e de outros países que antes mencionei, outras regiões, mostram que a exploração de recursos minerais ainda ocorre de forma predatória, excludente, acima de tudo.
So to mention that the example that I've shown, or that we've heard from our DRC, Mozambique, and Tanzania, and many other countries, all of them indicate that the extractive industry, until today, this activity is conducted in an exploitation way or manner from all these countries that I've mentioned, and also very exclusive.
Bem, as promessas de desenvolvimento muitas vezes resultam em mais desigualdade, em mais destruição ambiental e em mais repressão para aqueles que ousam questionar o sistema.
So to mention that these extractive industry or mining industry, until today, it is being conducted in a very inequality manner, in a very oppressive manner, and to those that stand up against the system or question why things are done the way they are done. So.
Moçambique, meu país, é exemplo claro dessa contradição.
Mozambique, my country where I'm from, is a very clear example of these contradictions.
De lado, território riquíssimo em recursos minerais.
On one side, a very wealthy and rich territory in mineral resources.
Do outro, povo que sofre as consequências da sua exploração sem qualquer benefício real.
And on the other hand, a people that suffer out of the exploitation of their resources without any compensation or benefit whatsoever.
Desde outubro do ano passado, em Moçambique, já foram mortas 500 pessoas. Estamos a falar de 4 meses, até que são mais de 500 pessoas que perderam as suas vidas.
So since October last year until now, we're counting about 4 months. In Mozambique, around about 500 people have been killed already.
619 ficaram feridas a tiros nas manifestações.
Around about 619 have been injured out of the protest and the manifestation that is happening in Mozambique.
E agora que estou a falar, há registro de 4.221 pessoas detidas nesses protestos.
And as I'm speaking, stand before you, around about 4,238 people have been detained out of those protests that has been happening in Mozambique since last week.
Vítimas de repressão brutal contra aqueles que lutam pelos seus direitos.
So they've been victims of the brutal or repression for those that are fighting for their rights.
Este é retrato da marginalização e repressão vividas pelas comunidades que resistem.
So this is the portrait of the marginalization and the repression of those communities that are standing up for their own rights.
E a tragédia se aprofunda quando analisamos o contexto mais amplo. Jornalistas, líderes comunitários, defensores dos direitos humanos são silenciados.
And this even worsens the scenario whenever we see the civil society, the media or the journalists, the press, they are silenced whenever they stand up against all these injustices.
E quando isso acontece, as organizações religiosas, a SADC, a União Africana, ainda continua calada e não fala nada diante a essas injustiças.
repito, organizações religiosas, porque temos muitas organizações religiosas aqui, mas não há nenhuma ação concreta quando há essas injustiças. A SADC, que tinha que ser um exemplo desta solidariedade, não se pronuncia. A União Africana, será que isto é uma União Africana sem solidariedade, a agirmos de forma fragmentada e não sermos solidários a essa injustiça?
And as those injustices are being conducted, as I speak before you, it happened that the churches, SADC, AU, and many other organizations, they are silent, they are just reluctant, they are watching, they are not doing anything. So before all these atrocities that I've mentioned, is there really an African unity? Is there really a solidarity amongst ourselves? Because I'll also reiterate the churches, because many churches are just following what is happening, Mozambique particularly, but they're not doing anything about it.
E no contexto da transição energética, Moçambique detém maiores reservas. Em todo o mundo é o segundo detetor de reservas de grafite, e temos lá multinacionais a explorarem esse grafite para fora, e um dos maiores clientes é a Tesla, uma empresa mais valiosa a nível mundial. Mas se tu fores a Moçambique, a Balama, falta escola, falta energia, falta um pouco de tudo. É paradoxal o que acontece nessas regiões.
So with regards to the energy transition, particularly one aspect in Mozambique, Mozambique is the second largest country in the world with the biggest reserve of graphite. And to mention that it's been already extracted in the locality or the area of Balama in Mozambique. And one of the biggest clients or buyers of that graphite in Mozambique is a company called Tesla. We know whom that belongs to. So, but if you go to Balama, as we speak, there are no schools, there are no infrastructure, there's no development at all. So it's a huge paradox that we face before us.
Neste contexto, devemos nos unir como comunidade, como nações e como continente. A exploração dos recursos do nosso povo não é uma fatalidade, mas sim um sistema que pode e deve ser transformado.
So to mention that, my take on that, or my recommendation is that we need to unite as a community, as one, as a whole, and our nations, our continent. The situation or the system that is in place is not a fatality, but it is a system that we need to undo. We need to get rid of it so that the situation, the reality may be changed.
A transição energética precisa ser constituída com e para os povos.
So energy transition needs to be constituted or centralized for and by the people.
Isso significa fortalecer nossas redes de solidariedade.
So it means to fortify our roots of
trocar experiências,
to exchange experiences,
denunciar injustiças,
to denounce injustice,
exigir responsabilidade das indústrias e dos governos.
And also to force accountability from the corporates and the governments.
Não podemos nos calar diante da repressão, da violência e da exploração.
We cannot be silent before the repression and the violence that is ongoing.
A luta continua. A luta continua.
A luta continua.
E acima de tudo, o povo deve estar no poder. A luta continua.
I only know how to say obrigado and obrigada and bon dia. But thank you to those comrades for their statements. We are now in the last hour of our session here, and we want to welcome the closing panel. And I think we've lost our chair. It's Eric somewhere near. He's supposed to be handling this panel, the closing panel. Maybe as we allow him to be called, we can be able to call those that are going to join the panel onto the stage. So give me a second. So those that will be on the panel, Andile Zulu. Andile Zulu. Welcome to the panel. Anthony Adam. Anthony Adam, welcome. You're not clapping for this panel. And then we'll have Gorata. Gorata. I'm avoiding to say the last name because it says Ramo something, but after that, I'm sure it has a clicking sound. It has a clicking sound. I don't want to cause a problem here. Gorata. Okay. Gorata. And then we have Monica Njoroge. Oh, Gorata is here. Clap for Gorata. Welcome to the stage and welcome the Army Chair. Please welcome the Army Chair properly. Good claps. Hassan to come and help me here because, of course, we are trying to wrap up, having a community and together. Is Comrade Hassan in the room? Okay, if it's not, thank you very much. I think we have now gone through the process of the AMI from the opening. There has been a panel that has discussed the AMI and criticized it. We had panels that were discussing issues and how we take them forward. There were speakers who really have advised us. Now this panel is put together to look into all those issues that have been rising out of the conference. And in one way or the other, give us what is their thought. How do we move forward with a lot of these issues being raised? What is it that we should do as a movement? How should we move forward? I mean, each one of them will give a take on how they see things, what do they see the future of this AMI, and how we move on. And I will start perhaps because the ladies were not given opportunity this morning. I'll start with Monica. To really take us through what's their thought. Please take a few minutes in delivering with us what will be your thought on this.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So I'm from Kenya. I'm not sure we have an Amanda or a Luther continuing in the country. But you feel the energy. I've been introduced. My name is Monica Njoroge. I serve at the Fellowship of Christian Council and Churches in the States in the Horn of Africa. In short, it's Teklaha. For those of you who know Fokisa, Teklaha is the Fokisa in the Horn of Africa. So we work with the councils of churches, the regions. Our main focus is a platform that creates spaces for faith actors, especially the National Council of Churches, to reflect on common issues of concern, especially around peace building and social cohesion, as we have had this morning from DRC. Our members, as I mentioned, are the National Council of Churches. In that geographical spread of 10 countries in that region. We seek to catalyze conversations on issues of peace and social cohesion, and we provide accompaniment to our members in collaborations with our partners so that we jointly and proactively address drivers of conflicts in the region. Of course, the natural resource issues are one of the drivers of conflict, specifically around the inequalities and the injustices affecting communities, around the natural resources. We have heard this morning from our colleague from the DRC, and we know that the natural resources are one of the drivers of conflict in that region. We also know about South Sudan, the issue of oil in that country and how it has driven conflict. And so the natural resources remain one of the areas that the PLAHA focuses on. So what we do is that we accompany our members, that's the National Council of Churches and the actors, to be able to, to proactively engage around these issues. We build their capacity, or rather we enhance their capacity. We provide technical support and support the advocacy relations. So I'm so grateful to EJN and Pakisa for giving us the PLAHA this opportunity to be in this panel. And of course, I want to pass my hearty congratulations to Pakisa and especially EJN for sustaining such a movement for 15 years. That is not an easy task. This is not something that we should take for granted. It's a true reflection of what an audacious and a bold vision and purpose, coupled with joint values and sustained efforts, can build. We have been able, through AMI, we have been able to build a community of organizations working together for a common goal, and it has fostered a long-term transformative change in this region. So we congratulate AMI, we congratulate EJN and Pakisa for sustaining such a good movement and a strong and a robust movement. So to the AMI pathway, when I was reflecting, and especially on the question of for who, I think that remains the core of our engagement around AMI, that we must be able to keep that in mind, that we are very clear on what, but we have to, it's very easy to, get carried away with for who, because there are so many interests. And therefore, one as we move towards the future and envisioning what AMI should be looking at the future, is that we need to be strengthening long-term empowerment of communities. And I think that's the key. That empowerment is not just the short-term processes, but we have to be able to think long-term. It has to be sustained, and empowerment has to be nurturing and accompanying our communities to not only understand their rights on the importance as important players, not just beneficiaries, not for who you think that the companies are doing as well, but they are actually important players, and that we also empower them to be able to nurture and accompany them, to be able to appreciate their capacity to engage, along the value chains, to be able to engage the opportunities that are there along the pathway around the extractive industry. So it's important that we empower our communities, and that remains our focus around our work in AMI. For sure, when we started on Monday, on Tuesday, we were told that there is nothing like voiceless communities. And I believe that is important for us to reflect around, because I think when we talk about the voiceless communities, then we are thinking that we are speaking for the voiceless community. In fact, we are actually perpetuating the injustice. We are perpetuating the inequality when we imagine that we are speaking for them. On the contrary, we should be empowering them and enabling them to be able to speak for themselves. And why do we then focus on the communities? Number one, we strengthen the agency of the community, and that is very important. And then we strengthen the voice of the community as opposed to speaking for them. And then we strengthen the process of building a grassroots-driven movement. In Kenya, we say bottom up, but that has been politicized, so that the Kenyan British side we say bottom up. But the aspect of having a community, not from top to bottom, but really a bottom-up community, and that is perhaps one of the strengths of AMI, to be able to sustain and keep the movement going. So it's very important that our communities are able to to speak for themselves and they are empowered to tap onto the opportunities available within the extractive industry, then you have succeeded as AMI, and that should remain at the very core of AMI. I think the second reflection around the pathway is that we need to galvanize regional level advocacy for extractives. We have so many organizations in this that are representing different organizations, and we are very well engaged at the grassroots and at the national level. But AMI has like FECLAHA and COKISA. We have the responsibility of ensuring that we are galvanizing on the regional level advocacy and ensuring that we are speaking from this, from that regional level. One of the things that, as I was reflecting as I sat in this room, and this is a challenge that I want to put to AMI and ourselves, was that AMI is still largely Southern Africa, and that's a good thing. And so it's an appeal for us in Eastern Africa that we want to be in this, want to hear our issues also come out very strongly. So I was hoping, and it has come towards the tail end, that we would have a bit highlighted the issue of DRC, the way we have highlighted issues of South Sudan. So I think we need to maybe expand and realize and embrace the fact that AMI has grown beyond Southern Africa, and we want to be let in as the Eastern Africa region. And we are thinking of having conversations around conflicts, because this is also an emerging issue. That maybe the next time when we are discussing about the long-term conversation, that issues of conflicts and issues like those that would also come up very strongly. So it has become a regional space that has gone beyond Southern Africa, and it has gone to the continental, and we need to begin to think that way as we move forward. I think my last point is, maximizing on our power of faith ethics. I think we need to be very, very aware of that we have managed as AMI to create such a beautiful and inclusive space, but we also need to veer away from the temptation of becoming very technical and very elitist, and ensure that we, hold on to those faith, our faith ethics, because that is what we bring to the table. We have, the experts in the room, people, the advocates, and we embrace them and we appreciate them. But as AMI, we also have our strength, which is our faith and our ethics and our values. And so we must be able to keep that identity and ensure that it remains at the core of the engagement of people. So I think that is where I'll stop. Thank you.
Thank you. I think you have raised quite interesting points. 3 of them are connected. I'm not going to go into them, but I will also give other speakers to invite, and I will come back to some of them. Anile, your take on the last 3 days, where should we go?
Good morning to comrades and colleagues, and thanks to the AMI for giving me this opportunity to engage. My name is Anila Zulu from the Alternative Information Development Center here in Cape Town, and we do research, advocacy, movement building on a range of issues: economic justice, alternative to extractivism, climate justice, energy democracy, and so on. So I'll get straight into it. So I think our response to the question of not just an energy transition for who, but the question of pathways for the alternative mining Indaba needs to be informed by the problem that we're confronting. So we need to have a serious understanding of the severity, the scale, and the extent of the problem that we're having, the reason why we're all here in the first place. And there's 2 fundamental problems that need to be confronted. So first is the reality of the climate crisis. It's climate change, but it's a crisis. The reality is that in the next few decades, it's already beginning to unfold, it's been unfolding for the past few years. We're going to see shifts in the weather and extreme climate events that will threaten the livelihoods of millions, tens of millions around the world, and hundreds of millions
as the decades goes by. We're talking about floods, cyclones, heat waves, droughts, wildfires that are going to threaten food security in southern Africa, causing tens of millions to go hungry. We're going to see unprecedented scales of migration across the continent and in the global south. We're going to see the outbreak of new health epidemics as cyclones, typhoons, and floods destroy public infrastructure. We all remember, for example, Cyclone Indaba in Malawi, and how that led to an outbreak of cholera, typhoid fever, and so on. And we're going to see more and more people being displaced. Now then, on top of this, you have an economic and social crisis, not just in Africa, but across the world, where increasing amounts of people are falling into financial insecurity, into poverty, and into unsustainable levels of debt. We're seeing wages stagnating, where many people across the world and in Africa cannot afford to keep up with the cost of living. We're seeing a growing crisis of unemployment. We're seeing a crisis of hunger, all while the rich continue to get richer and compound their political power as well. So what these two crises reveal is that there is an economic elite who have monopolized the control over earth's resources in the pursuit of plunder and profit. And there's a very nice quote by Barry Commoner in a book where he says, if the environment is polluted and the economy is sick, the virus that causes both will be found in the system of production. And that system of production is neoliberal capitalism. What I mean by that is that for the past 30 years, what elites have been trying to do is to find new ways to accumulate wealth and restore their power as economic elites. That's what they've done in South Africa, that's what they've done in Zimbabwe, that's what they've done in Mozambique. And that's why we see the quality of our people's lives getting worse, and extractivism beginning to increase as well. And so for them, the just transition for the World Bank, the IMF, for Goldman Sachs, for Glencore, and even for renewable energy companies in Europe, is not an opportunity to actually confront the climate crisis, to stop environmental pollution. No, it is a new a way to make profits and build their wealth accumulation. It's quite clear for them that the chase after green minerals and making Senegal and South Africa and Vietnam sign these just transition partnerships is just about making profits under the guise of we're going to provide you renewable technologies, we're going to improve your climate adaptation systems. That's not what they're interested in. This is an opportunity for them to accumulate profits. And it is a new age of colonialism that Africa is going to be facing overall. And so we cannot expect the people who cause extractivism, the plunder of the continent, who then also cause the climate crisis, we cannot expect those elites to then give us solutions to the problem. They have no ability to solve this problem because it isn't profitable for them to do so. If it was profitable to confront climate change, we wouldn't be even needing to discuss the energy transition. But it isn't, so they won't confront it. So this means then that we need to be really clear about what the just energy transition is. And in fact, if you go into the history of the concept of the just energy transition, it originates in the 1970s and 80s as an alliance between mining-affected communities and trade unionists, who said that these companies are polluting our community. We need to move away from fossil fuels, but we should be the ones determining how that process goes, and no one should be left behind. That's where the concept originates from. And then it was appropriated by the economic and political elites of the world, because actually confronting climate change would challenge the economic system that we have. So I think the AD should be very clear that the just transition is not a technological shift, it's not a scientific question, it's not a series of reforms. I think what we should be demanding is a transformation of our system of production, a transformation of our economic relations, and a transformation of our political order. Because the world as we know it now was created by the plunder of the earth's resources, the violent dispossession of the colonial, those who were conquered during colonialism, the displacement of people, and the hyper-exploitation of working people in the global south and in the African continent. We cannot expect the just transition to be a mere tinkering. It must be a transformation of our lives as we know it. And so then, if we want the just transition to be a transformative process, to bring us new economic relations, to bring us a new relationship to nature, to bring us a new relationship to our resources, it means it then becomes a question of power. Because these economic elites are not going to listen to you if you just appeal to their benevolence, their moral consciousness. No. They will only listen to you if you amass the political power to be able to pressure them to get the change that you want. So then the question becomes, how do we build counterpower? Power against the World Bank, power against the International Monetary Fund, power against the fossil fuel and gas industry. How then do we do that? I think it's about firstly building national movements, regional organizations. We have to build movements that are an alliance between workers and communities. Workers in the energy sector, workers in mining, workers in manufacturing. We then also have to organize workers who are precarious. As we say, there are many workers in the energy sector in mining who don't belong to a trade union, who work for 6 months at a time, who don't have a stable provision of employment. We have to organize the unorganized workers. Then we have to have strategies and demands which challenge states and private capital at the same time. We have to mobilize and organize for progressive and radical demands amongst the states. I think a crucial demand, for example, in energy transition is the demand for a universal basic income and a tax on the wealthy and the rich. There has to be a fundamental demand. It's absurd that, for example, South Africa is the most unequal country in the world, and we've lowered the corporate income tax rate drastically over the past 30 years. So why is it that those who come and take our resources aren't giving back? They must give back. Secondly, and I'll end with this, we have to hurt the ability of multinational corporations to make profits and accumulate wealth. Not because we are vindictive or jealous or whatever, it isn't about that. Their power comes from their ability to accumulate wealth. It's a cycle. They accumulate wealth, and then they use that wealth to influence our politicians, to influence our political systems, and all of us end up being spectators in our so-called democracies, because the wealth have put the government in their pockets. And the only way to stop that is to hurt their ability to accumulate wealth. And we can discuss what that looks like, but it looks like strikes, it looks like protests, it looks like, I would even say in some instances, occupying the offices of National Treasury. Right? If we are serious about the problems that we are facing, that the earth is in danger, that our people are suffering, our responses must be at the level to respond to the severity of the problem.
Thank you. I think let's allow speakers to go. I'm not going to make any intervention. Let's allow Furada to provide this.
Mela? Molweni? No, you will. Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, it goes. Great. My name is Farata Raji Ramkutani. I come from Botswana, and I'm here on the auspices of Botswana Council of Churches. I am 2 years old into the physical attendance of the army, and I am 7 years old in following the discussions and the dialogue around the army. And the past 4 days have been so interesting, have been so informative, and have opened my eyes and my ears to a whole new world. In Botswana, we have a new government. After 58 years of being ruled by the Botswana Democratic Party, we are now led by the UDC, Umbrella for Democratic Change. We have a new president, Advocate Maboko Discosa, So he has the roots from South Africa. And in my culture, when there is a death or a wedding, we slaughter cows. And when we don't have enough pots, we go to our neighbors and borrow their pots. And the expectation is that when all is said and done, you return the pot with something inside. Don't clean the pot and turn it to the oven. And that's the culture, that's the history that should shape our relationship with our natural resources, with our policymakers, with our governments, with our development partners, and with everybody else who has interest in our resources. So this I am saying to the artisanal small-scale miners. Don't give up. The pot belongs to us. The remains belongs to us. Let us put pressure on our governments. Let us put pressure on development partners. Let us put pressure on the mining companies or the industry so that they understand that whatever that we are doing, we don't do it out of greed. We do it because we have a strong relationship, a strong connection to our natural resources. We started at the church, and it took us 1,000 steps back to when it was the government, the church, and the tribal leadership. These were the three pillars of our country or our society. And as we developed and money was discovered, somebody started giving someone something that made them look more important than others. Then again, greed came in. And when greed came in, the church was kicked out of the room, and the people with the briefcase replaced the church. And the church started singing on the corridors. Our faith leaders started speaking from the pulpit, and people questioned, do you want the money, or do you want to give us the word of God? And that led to communities also asking themselves, why is the church doing this? And for a moment, they forgot that churches were the first institutions to construct schools, hospitals, and every development that was done was set on the foundation of the church. That is why today we have our faith leaders in the forefront. And I was so impressed when we went to the Methodist Church, that is where the meeting, one of the first meetings, that is where it took place. So that should jog our memory back to appreciate and go back to the faith sector and say, hey, we are sorry, we didn't listen, but we are ready to engage, we are ready to listen to you, we are ready to hear your voice and relay it back to our communities. And to our tribal leadership, we changed a lot of laws and took rights from them. At first, they were responsible of land allocation. Anyone who wanted to do anything on land had to go to the chief. And then again, greed came in. They gave our chiefs alcohol, they gave our chiefs tobacco, they gave them suits, they gave them nice suitcases so that when they travel to their relatives, they can see how well dressed they are. And then that's how things changed. We started making them sign papers that they didn't understand. And it raises the issue of understanding the contents of the contracts our countries sign on our behalf in the name of improving our livelihoods. We don't know anything. I remember when our former president, Dr. Eric Mohamed Masisi, negotiated with GPS on the new deal. We were so excited and said, wow, for the first time, somebody is really from the government and doing this with GPS, negotiating. And then we later on realized, oh, no, man, GPS has not been paying us taxes. They owe us billions of money. And why is the government negotiating with someone who owe us so much money? And then there was some contracts there, and we asked, oh, since we are being transparent, may we please have the Minister of Finance come and explain to us what is in your contract, what does it entail? No, we can't share that information with you. Okay, then you haven't done anything different. So what I'm saying to our development partners, our Oxfam, our benchmarks, our Afrodebt, our Tax Justice Network, please link with us at community level so that we know the right words to use when we are dealing with government people. Because we write letters, and the way we write our letters, they don't provoke those who have to make the change. And sometimes our letters end up at the reception. Others brought a letter, okay, it's here, we know it, put on the table. But once we write our letters in such a way that it captures the leadership, then I believe we can go somewhere. What I am, in short, trying to say is we have all done a very good job as the army. Let's give ourselves a round of applause. We have made so much change in our communities. If you go to Ghana, now our communities understand that at any given time, they can go and see the manager of Botswana. They can go and see the manager of GPS because we got training from Benchmarks Foundation on how to do that. Before then, we couldn't do that. And again, we are now able to engage at regional level, at international level, because somebody with some level of technical expertise took their time and educated people at grassroots level. So, with that being said, I wish to say to us, Aruta continue. Thank you.
And I think you were also saying it's good pressure on the government and companies, and also the strong proposal that we really need to expand. We are now a continental movement. Let's build a movement in alliance with the working class or the workers, and that's what really Angelo is. But the other question is that would you really trust that those who have created the program will bring a solution to this problem? Anthony, what's your take? What's your take? What's your contribution?
Good morning. My name is Adam Anthony from Haki Rasilimali. That's a civil society network in Tanzania, working in private industry, focusing on transparency and accountability. And maybe I can start from the question whether we can trust those who have created the problem to solve it. It's a difficult question because sometimes there is a level of being naive about how big our problems are, and also being naive about who are we really fighting. Are we fighting the industry? Are we fighting governments? Or are they groups that we should be working with together? And I will reflect that on last year's mining in Indaba. This is the second one for me. The first one was last year. And one of the key takeaways was that how come are we talking to ourselves? The alternative mining in Indaba here is full of civil society. The mining in Indaba on the other side is full of industry and government. And maybe we can start by a show of hands. How many are from government? I want you to also turn around and check how many are from government.
You are not going to get that response.
How many are from the industry? One. Okay. And what does that tell us to begin with? One, there are those who have taken the time to come and listen to what is happening on this side. The industry do not show hands, but the governments who probably have chosen to be silent, which is okay, that's the same place. But these problems need to be able to be solved by the communities, the civil society, the governments, and the industry. It does not matter who created this problem. We have some problems that have been created by our own governments. We have some problems that have been created by the industry. And the partnership between all those key stakeholders is very key into solving it. The previous speaker spoke about the extractivism and the capitalist nature of exploiting the society and the community. But as an economist, capitalism has no morals, whether you like it or not. If you have studied the economy, capitalism has no morals. If capitalism had morals, they wouldn't be making super profit. And what are the key lessons we learned from the classes we studied economics? You can make super profits and make sure you have. And as the industry, you cannot appeal to morals of an industry. As an industry, there are people in the industry who have morals, and there are people in the industry who have absolutely no morals. And these are the kind of people that we're fighting. Our role as a civil society is to make sure that the governance structures can uphold the government and the industry accountable. And I'll share with you a few examples. I sit in the Tanzania EITI board, and it has taken over 15 years maybe since Tanzania joined the EITI. But this year is going to be the first time that Tanzania is releasing its contract with the companies. And what was one key lesson from those contracts? One of the key contracts between the government and the government said will release a part of the contract. The company said, we have no problem, release the entire contract. Now, if you were thinking that probably industry was your problem, this was not the company's problem. It's simply okay for you to release the entire contract. The government said you release part. There are companies that do not want that contract to be released. The government is saying they're going to release that contract. So you do not have a constant enemy. Your enemy at any point can change. It can be a government, it can be a company, it can be a civil society. There are civil societies that have different focuses on some of these questions. And we've talked about energy transition for food. I think it's a very important question. And you can think about it from many different parts. Energy transition is spearheaded by companies in industry, government, from the European Union and from the West. But if just energy transition was a key priority, Tanzania would not be exporting 7 times coal in the past 2 years. Since the Ukraine-Russia war started, coal exports from Tanzania have gone up 7 times. And where is the market? It's in Europe. When the South African crude pipeline from Uganda to Tanzania, when civil society stood up and said, we do not want this because one, it cuts across some of the reserved lands and many other problems. The international community, and I cite the European Union here, did not say strong. It said delayed, not strong. So the energy transition we ask for who, the very important question is maybe we are on the wrong agenda. Maybe we're jumping on a bus, or we're jumping on a question that we shouldn't be focusing on at all. Our focus is the community and how they benefit from not just the critical movement or the energy transition as a concept, but how they benefit from the resources that they have in their life. How do they remain safe? How are they protected? How does their governance structure make sure that our government and communities are getting better deals out of it? And you're not going to get a better deal by saying we're going to speak a civil society. When we left last year from Army, us from Tanzania, our colleagues from Kenya, from Jersey, from Uganda, one of the key lessons we say, some of these things need to be taken back home. So for the first time last year, we organized our own East African Solar and Indaba in Dodoma, in Tanzania. And what we did, one of the key lessons we took away from Army is that we did not speak with ourselves. We had the community, we had highest levels of government, and we made sure we have an industry in the room. What does that say? Is that everyone will be able to speak and get the key audience of everyone who matters to make important decisions. And I think that's the key lesson that we took from Army, and I'm happy that we've seen it this year as well. That one, we've had diversity of content in terms of topics, diversity of countries. The discussions were not, for example, dominated by South African context, and we've had diversity of speakers. And I think that's a key learning from last year, that we've seen a change this year. And I want to finish with the last question which we were given, whether Army is a spark of change or a movement. And I don't think it's a choice between the two. I think it's both, depending on when you started to attend Army. When I started to attend Army last year, it was a spark of change. Because then you listen to the conversation and how other communities have managed to do better and gotten better deals out of the resource government. For someone who started attending Army 16 years ago, maybe this is a movement that you're part of, that you have seen it through and through. And I know this morning we got questions from other colleagues from Tanzania as well, asking, can you see the impact of Army? Because I started attending Army 10 years ago. I come back to my question of being naive. I don't expect a change in 2 years, especially if you're fighting government and industry. So you have a choice to take whether Army is a spark of change for you, whether it's a movement, or it remains both. You come every year, come here every year to get motivation as a spark of change, but also remains part of the movement and expect that some things will change along the way. And it will take 5 years, it will take 10, take 15, but as long as you work in civil society, the struggle never ends.
Thank you, Anthony. Very disciplined, especially with time. Now, I'm going to offer the room an opportunity to engage. For every speaker, please don't go beyond a minute. You are not making a presentation. These are the people who are making a presentation. So you should be concise and straight to the question of your intervention. So I will start on the other side. Can I get a hands on the other side? One hand. And then I will, let's get the first hand, and then we will see if you can come, because I'm coming on this side. I'm taking one, and I do not know who to take. Let me take the gentleman in between Sunny and. So let's start on the other side. So you can know we're taking 3 now, and you can keep your hands down. We'll come back. We're taking 3. Okay. So let's quickly get the gentleman. Yes. Whilst we are preparing, can I give someone else, the gentleman, to come and translate? It will be unfair. They don't have their headphones. Let's say, come here now. So we'll come back to what's the, can the translator come be prepared here?
So thank you for the opportunity. Auntie Zulu, you are an inspiration to me. There is hope. A young person like you knows that capitalism is a brutal system, not to be celebrated after. So well done. I don't know who trained you, but I know you're KMTC now. So well done. Keep it up and teach more people of your age.
Thank you. Let's go back. Leave the translator in mind. Go back to the gentleman.
First of all, I would love to thank the panel.
A minha pergunta vai diretamente.
My question is addressed to the comrade from Tanzania. Let's talk at once.
Ela acabou de dizer que a transição energética é conceito, mas para mim é uma realidade.
So he ended up saying, this Adam affirmed saying that energy transition is a concept, but for me I would say it is a reality.
O que eu vou dar exemplo, eu tenho comunidade que tinha facilidade de viver, fazer alimentação, comida, com lenha, mas hoje para conseguir lenha, elas têm que fazer mais de 10 quilômetros para encontrar lenha e fazer comida.
So I will give an example of a community that I was supervising working with to say that back in the days and the years they had the opportunity of having or making their meals with the foods accessible to them. But as we speak, they have to take a journey of about 10 kilometers in order to access wood so that they can prepare the meal.
E hoje em dia, a vida deles, o meio de subsistência de vida, está muito complicado.
And nowadays, their means of substance of their livelihoods is very much complicated.
Eu queria trazer essa ideia no sentido de não só pensar na transição energética no sentido só das indústrias, mas temos de pensar também com as nossas práticas que podem, que afetam e que têm efeito negativo sobre a transição energética.
So I would love to bring into attention that this concept of energy transition, not only at the level of the corporates or the companies, but also within our practices within the community that is affected directly with the so-called energy transition.
Então, para mim, devemos pensar quais são as boas práticas que podem nos permitir transitar.
I'm going to intervene. I think your question has been noted. Is energy transition a concept or reality? I think that's the question you wanted.
Exactly.
So please, let's move. Let's give the gentleman back.
Good morning. I am the also from here in South Africa. First, I want to thank all four of you in the panel. I think we're on point. The second thing is that I think the information that we get here is very, very important and necessary in helping communities to find a position, not only knowing our rights, but also being able to put those rights into action and fight for information. So the information here is very important. But I also think there's a need of extra support to communities when this information is starting out to be implemented by communities. Often communities take their books that Comrade Andy just mentioned of confronting the profit making of industries, and that's where industries support communities in ways that are not really pleasant. In most cases, there are court cases. In most times, there are also violation of human rights through force from the states.
Go straight to the question now.
No, violation per se. Just making a reflection of the
Please wrap up. I have asked for 20, you get 1 minute. I'm looking at time from where I'm staying.
Yes.
So I'm going to intervene so that we allow me to speak.
Yes. So as a form of wrapping up, I wanted to say, I think it's most important that the radicalism that Comrade Andy mentioned of confrontation sometimes it's really important. So that the return will respond if you get the profit. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. There is a need to be very kind. So let me have 3 more. I will start this side this time. Let's get a woman. Let me get my mom. She has raised her hand. So let's get here. I'm seeing the video of the people I know, but I do not know so that I'm not accused of bias. The gentleman in glasses. So let's do 1 minute.
Hi, good morning everyone. My name is Saiba. I want to appreciate the fact and also the contributions of the last few days. Just for maybe some few quick short things. I think that we haven't focused enough on the commodification of renewable energy. And if we want to talk about just transition, we need to focus on that. Also think that we cannot have a just transition if we do not appreciate and amplify the indigenous knowledge systems. I mean, very shortly, finally, in the South African context right now, ESCOM has applied for an increase of 36%, NISTA has made it 12%, which is not unaffordable to most of us. But one of the reasons that they use is because of coal being so expensive, because so much of our coal is being exported to the state of Israel to fuel the genocide. We need to look at extractivism and the links to wars and genocides and how it fuels that. Thank you.
Communication of renewable energy. Comrades, can you this is the mic. I'm not sure you will understand the question we have. Please, let's move. We are coming back and then we line up the translator. So let's give the gentleman here with the glasses to, and then we'll come back to you. We're not taking away we're lining up someone to translate that. Yes, the gentleman standing up. Let me get French translation.
Thank you so much for the mic. My question is related to Monica. My name is Joseph Mendes. I'm from the Southern African Resource Watch. I think the issue of conflict over natural resources is a very critical one. So my question is to you with reference to the demand of critical minerals and the conversation around critical minerals. What do you think African countries can do to prevent that? Because we've seen that natural resources are a major source of conflict and do have patterns of conflict.
Okay, correct.
So that was my question.
You had a question.
Yeah. Okay.
Can we then move to the lady who
My name is Mariam Bashir, and I'm coming from Senegal.
C'est ma première participation à AMI.
It's my first time to be at AMI.
Et c'est un plaisir de pouvoir partager des expériences de d'autres pays sur les questions de transition énergétique.
And it's a good experience for me to discover what is happening in other countries.
Depuis hier, on parle de notion de vie. Et moi, à mon avis, la transition énergétique va tenir compte des priorités chaque pays, également de ses réalités socio-économiques.
When it comes to just, you have to take in account every country's reality.
Aujourd'hui, le Sénégal, à l'instar de l'Afrique de l'Indonésie, nous avons bénéficié d'un financement du JP.
We got the financing from the JP as a Senegal.
Et aujourd'hui, notre réalité, c'est que pour le cas du Sénégal, le financement du JP est de 2,8 milliards de dollars. On a que 6% de subventions et le reste du financement, c'est des prêts.
And the financing that has been given to Senegal, we only have access to 6% of it, which is around. Je m'excuse, madame, quel est le montant? So we have a $2.8 billion that are supposed to be given to us, but we only have access to 6% of that amount, and the rest should be debt that we have to repay.
Et l'objectif est d'accélérer notre accès à l'énergie. Et nous avons
Résumé, madame, résumé, s'il vous plaît. Résumé.
Summarize, please. Summarize your question.
Allez directement à la question.
Ok, j'aimerais savoir, pour le cas de l'Afrique du Sud, où c'est 90%, 86% c'est d'aller vraiment à diminuer l'utilisation du charbon. Quels sont vos besoins en termes de prise en compte des communautés dans votre plan d'investissement? Est-ce que vous rencontrez des difficultés dans la mise en œuvre de votre plan d'investissement? Et comment l'Afrique du Sud est impliquée dans ce plan?
Merci beaucoup.
Especially when it comes to coal, how do you go about it? As you say, you want to reduce the production of coal. How do you go about it, and what is the implication of the civil society and the community too, and the financing part?
Thank you very much. Now I know we are stretched with time, so I'm sorry that I have to do that, because otherwise, if no one does it, we will not have time. I need to be a time manufacturer in life. I'm just going to allow panelists to wrap up. Every one of you have 2 minutes. Answer the questions that we posed to you. Respond to the question that you know. That's your package. 2 minutes.
Okay. Thanks for the questions, colleagues and comrades. I think I'll start with the question about financing and the just energy transition partnerships. So from AIDC's perspective, and I think it's a perspective that's increasingly shared by a lot of civil society in South Africa and within the global climate movement, this just energy transition climate financing is very dangerous. We call it green structural adjustments, because the first problem is that you take out these loans, they must be paid back with interest in a foreign currency that's often depreciating against the euro and the dollar. So that's one issue. For example, Eskom took out a loan from the World Bank in 2010, which is going to take us until the end of this century to pay back. And while you fail to pay back while you're paying back loans and paying interest, you cut spending on school, healthcare, food, and so on. The second problem is that a lot of this climate financing comes with conditions. So they say that in order for you to get this financing, you must unbundle your state-owned enterprise. You must allow for independent power producers to penetrate your energy system. You must lower minimum wage requirements so that companies get cheap labor. You must have high interest rates so that creditors get good returns on their borrowing. You see what I mean? This is just a new era of structural adjustments under the guise of solving climate change. And the final problem, the real problem, is that these loans slow down our ability to transition. Because if you put transitioning in the hands of investors, investors have their own set of criteria for how they disperse funds. It depends on what the shareholders say. There must be a minimum requirement of returns on our investments. And so it means that green energy projects that could be helping people are stalled because investors, they feel this way and that way and haven't met the criteria, so they aren't willing to commit. So that's a problem. Then just responding to the commodification of renewable energy, It's something that I think the AMI should think about and take on as a demand, that we must have universal access to electricity. Electricity is a fundamental need for human beings. It's implausible that there are so many people on the continent that still don't have a reliable connection to electricity. And why should they pay for it? We should begin questioning why there are certain things that we pay for if all of us need it, and begin to explore alternatives in terms of how we fund the provision of universal services. It used to be that in countries like the US and in Europe, which had a golden age of capitalism, they didn't do it through tariffs. They did it through taxes on their corporations. Now they've switched their game and expect us to do it through tariffs, and they don't want to talk about taxing the rich and wealthy. We have to reform our tax systems to have universal provision and access to electricity. And I'll end it there. Yeah.
Thank you. So there was one question from a colleague from Angola asking whether just energy transition is a concept or a reality. And for me, it only becomes a reality when it can be fully practiced. And I'll give you an example. If a Norwegian company wants to enter into a contract of extracting gas from an African country, and 95% of that gas is exported to Europe, under the disguise of just energy transition, I don't understand whether that's a concept of reality, because why? You have a country, the majority of your people can't access, for example, a basic service of electricity. And that gas could have contributed and provided that similar service. But you're exporting 95% and you're remaining with 5%. How is that just? Because if that investment was meant for energy security for that country in Africa, you wouldn't be exporting 95% because you can fetch a better price in the international market and not in your own country. So whether that's a concept or a reality, I struggle with it too, because it can only become just when it's affordable for people in that country and when people can access that energy. And even worse, a previous speaker from Senegal spoke about just energy transition partnership and how they've been financed. The recent one was the Mission 300, an ambition to connect 300 million people in Africa with electricity by 2030, 5 years from now. But how is that program financed? Part of it is financed through, and the World Bank was very clear. We will not tell the government where this investment will go. If they want to invest in oil, if they want to invest in gas, in coal, that is their choice. Now, how just is that again? And even worse, to connect 300 million people in Africa to electricity did not come from the African United States. It was an initiative by the African Development Bank and the World Bank and the IMF and other international. And again, when we look at the international monetary structuring institutions, we look at them as partners. But I want to wrap it at this. Banks, they sell debt. That's the basic and fundamental business of a bank. They sell debt. How you deal with it, that is, there's a very popular saying that says, bank is like one friend that gives an umbrella when it's rainy, when it's dry. The moment it starts raining, they take back the umbrella. And you have many lessons from Ghana and from other African countries as well, that they position their resources in exchange for loans. And when things went wrong, you know what happened then.
My question was, what do you think a country can do to address the issue of conflicts, especially driven by race? So like a very broad subject in question, because I feel there are so many interests involved in that issue, the business interest, it has political connotations, and the community is caught up in the middle of that conflict. So it's not, I don't have a one answer for that, but I feel like perhaps it is one of the issues that perhaps we need to consider in the next army. To have an in-depth conversation around that. What do we do about the affected communities that are caught up by conflict driven by natural resources? I feel like a multi-sectoral engagement around that is very important. So I wouldn't want to gloss over and give a one answer to do injustice to such a grave matter. So we need for creation of that space and more conversations around how do we engage around the connections of natural resources and conflicts in this region, because it's a reality. We are seeing it in DRC and it's also happening in South Sudan. South Sudan, the undertones are just really the oil in that country. So it's an emerging concern that we need to raise in the army and even in our defense. I thank you.
In closing, we know where we come from, we know where we want to go, and we know how to get there. So let's go.
Very excellent. The only thing that we are running short of all the time is time. And this was a great conversation. Thank you. You can now. So we have really come to the close of the AMI 2025, and we are prepared to go and march. So I would like, as we close, to call all members of the steering committee. Please come to the fore, all members of the steering committee.
Whoever gets to the chair first.
Okay, let's say that we are going to review those stories. I think we have come now to the final time of our edition of 16 AMI. So we would like to show you that this are still your steering committee members who are supposed to take us to the next edition of AMI. And they were retained after the National Assembly, so we are still going to do the run so that we can bring some more reform into the whole AMI. So let's thank them for this excellent job that they have done. So now I don't know whether you want to, in global terms, I would want to thank everyone without naming funders, members of the community, members from the church, and all those who have really supported this AMI. We would like to thank you. And I suppose a vote of thanks in some of those who have contributed to this will come in formal letter. But because in the interest of time, I really would want to just do a round of, I hope I'm not offending anyone. This is defeating, but let me just only single out the program director. I'm not going to read to go through the list, but we know who really have made contributions. We are thanking you very much. But let me single out the two program directors for steering us for the last 3 days. Francis and Daisy, you are great. Thank you very much. We are going to go for a march. And this match is, we are going to be walking for at least 30 minutes to 45 minutes. And I'm advised that those who have health problems, chairs, and you know they cannot take a walk of that distance, please, let's not make an attempt. Yeah, so we are now marching. I mean, can I have those who are volunteering to marshals stand up and at least come to the front? These marshals come to the front. So we will be moving from the company gardens to CTICC, and we are going to hand over a memorandum. So the mining Indaba on the other side, they have designated people to come and receive our memorandum. So there will be, but when we arrive there, before we hand in the memorandum, as it has been a norm of this Indaba, we are going to observe 87-second moment of silence. But they do not know, but we will do that because we will be the one singing anyway. So, and that will be in respect to the soul that has passed in Stilfontein. So we will do that when we arrive at CICT. So we must know that many roads are closed. So the conditions that they have provided us these permissions, because tonight there is a state of the nation address. So there is all important people in Cape Town, including us, we are. So we should be finished there by 1 o'clock. So from here, those who have never got their t-shirt, please do quickly get your t-shirt. The marshals are supposed to be 50, right? Is this the only list we could?
You said the others who can't walk mustn't come.
So we have about the chief marshal. So we have 8. So we at least need 5 volunteers. So we need two more. We need 2 more marshals. Manda will be another chief marshal.
There's a hand on this side.
Yes, yeah. Don't. Yes, So don't be afraid. Even if you are not from South Africa, you can still be a marshal. Yes, you join him, please. So I think there are 2 buses. There are 4 buses for all of us. The best way is for all of us to get into the buses and not use our own transport. Those buses are going to drop us at this the company garden, and then we will walk to CTICC. And then when we finish there, the buses will be at CTICC at gate 2. We will go into them. They will drop us back here. So I think that's the instruction now. I'm not here. I'm not sure if I'm doing anything now.